Heartwarming journey revealed. Lonely rancher's life-changing night exposed a hidden love story. The storm blasted in like a freight train, ripping through the Texas night like a wild beast. Charlie stood in his barn, the rotting wood creaking beneath the weight of his loneliness. Outside, the wind howled, but nothing compared to the emptiness in his heart. A rancher at 35, he had spent his days in toil, dreaming of expanding the meager acres he called home. Yet as neighbors gathered for barbecues and laughter, Charlie remained an island, isolated in his own world. As raindrops hammered relentlessly against the corrugated roof, a sudden commotion shattered his solitude. A flash of lightning illuminated a figure, Maria, the spirited waitress from the local diner, drenched and desperate. She stumbled into the barn, her wide eyes searching for shelter from the chaos outside. Their eyes met, and a flicker of connection passed between them, igniting a warmth that neither had felt in a while. "Charlie. Mind if I," she stammered, brushing her wet hair from her forehead. "The storm, yeah, come in," he replied, surprised by the shake in his own voice. Her presence felt electric, the promise of something beyond their usual paths flickering like the lightning that crashed outside. As they huddled close to the old hay bales, thunder rumbled deep in the distance, creating an atmosphere thick with anticipation. Charlie found himself sharing his dreams, painting a picture of a sprawling ranch where cattle roamed free, where he imparted life lessons to kids from the town. His voice trembled, and he felt foolish, bare like the wood of the barn. "I dream of having my own restaurant someday," Maria shared, her eyes lighting up. "A place filled with the spices of my grandmother's recipes. Not just burgers and fries." The sparkle in her voice pushed him to envision a future that was more than just hard work, it was joy. Before they could truly bask in this newfound connection, Charlie sagged at a nagging thought: would he ever break free from the status society placed upon him? And Maria, driven yet torn by her family's expectations, was haunted by the knowledge that they would scorn any notion of her heart yearning for a rancher. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just like that, a wave of insecurity crashed over them. The storm outside matched the turmoil inside as Maria pulled back slightly. The weight of expectations loomed heavily, and a misunderstanding brewed like the storm clouds overhead. A flicker of doubt crossed her face, one that made Charlie's chest tighten. He couldn't escape the feeling of inadequacy that wrapped around him like the cold wind seeping through the barn. Maria backed away, biting her lip as she pondered her responsibilities. Had her heart led her astray? Would her future be squandered by falling in love with someone deemed lesser? So close to finding each other, both stood on the precipice of something beautiful yet frightening. Charlie, knowing that his ranch was on the verge of foreclosure, felt raw fear clench his stomach. The storm around them faded, replaced by a stillness where unresolved feelings hung in the air. As they both approached their lives' turning points, the future remained uncertain, wrapped in the embrace of their fears and desires. Would love pull them closer, or would the invisible chains of familial disappointments keep them apart? Charlie swallowed hard. The retreat into the unknown loomed larger, and he couldn't shake the image of Maria's hesitant expression. Each crack of thunder sent ripples of unease through him. He'd never displayed his dreams so openly, and now that they hung like dreams in the air, weighed down by doubts, he felt a wild urge to reclaim the moment. "Maria," he began, his voice firm but soft, "I know we both have our fears. But I shouldn't have come here," she interjected, stepping back further into the shadows of the barn. The familiar warmth of their connection felt cold against the gusting winds outside. "What were we thinking? It's not possible." "Possible?" Charlie breathed, making the move towards her, desperate for her to see the honesty in his heart. It is possible. Just look at the storm. It reminds us that beauty can come from chaos. Maria tore her gaze away, swallowing hard. Charlie could see her emotions dance behind her dark eyes, shifting like light reflected in rainwater. It's not just chaos, Charlie, she said quietly, it's expectations. My family, they wouldn't understand. They have this picture of what my life should look like, and you're not part of it. Her admission struck Charlie deep. The ranch, no matter how hard he fought to keep it, seemed inadequate now, especially when placed beside the glowing world Maria dreamed of building. But what if this is your moment? He urged, taking a step closer, letting the space between them shrink. You've got dreams too. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. As the wind howled outside, Maria searched his eyes, warring with what was right and what felt right. And if I pursue them and lose my family? Her voice cracked as she bared the weight she carried, a burden so heavy, it threatened to drown her. What if I've always been meant to follow their path? Charlie flinched at the pain lacing through her question. She was so vibrant and full of life, how could anyone mold her into something she wasn't? He remembered their shared laughter at the diner, the way her smile lit up the room. Maybe they'll understand when they see you happy, he suggested, his heart racing. Don't people want that for their kids? Happiness? He reached out, brushing his fingers against hers, a connection that felt more potent than the thunder surrounding them. The warmth of her hand ignited something deep in him. You know what we are, Maria? We're two souls tangled together in this storm, searching for a way home. Maybe we can find our way together. Her breath caught, and for a heartbeat, they stood frozen, the world falling away. In that moment, sharing the heartbeat of the storm, they were alive with what could be. But reality crept back in, heavy and laden. The future still stretched like a distant horizon between them, promises and heartbreak intertwined. Charlie, I need time, she finally whispered, the flicker of hope wavering. I need to think about everything about us. The uncertainty settled firmly in Charlie's chest. Yet even as the storm raged, a small flicker of hope remained. Perhaps time was what they both needed, time to face their fears and find the courage to bridge the impossible gap between dreams and reality. Okay, he said softly, a promise wrapped in uncertainty. But remember, home is where the heart feels free. As Maria stepped back, the shadows swallowed her as she turned and left the barn, the storm still raging. Charlie stood alone, feeling the weight of his unsaid words pressing against him like an unrelenting force. Would they ever allow their hearts to break free, forging a path through their tangled fates? In the quiet of the storm's aftermath, he stared out at the dark sky, waiting for the next flash of lightning to illuminate what possibilities lay ahead. What if a choice made in the shadows could illuminate a path towards love? Charlie's heart raced as he stood in the barn, the echoes of Maria's presence still lingering in the air. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration and hope colliding within him. The storm outside raged on, but inside, it felt like a tempest of its own. He wished he could reach through the chaos and tether her to his dreams just as tightly as they had been tangled together in that moment. Hours passed, and the rain poured relentlessly. It blurred the world outside, but the view lessened the ache in his heart. Each drop seemed to intensify his resentment towards the circumstances that had twisted their lives apart. Was it the dreams and expectations of her family that separated them, or was it the fear of chasing something that might never be? Charlie grabbed a lantern and stepped outside, the light flickering like the hope that still burned inside him. The wind whipped around him, urging him to chase after Maria, but he hesitated, swallowed once again by doubt. Would she even want him to? Maybe she needed to process everything alone, but the thought of losing her was a heavy weight he could barely carry. As he walked through the wet grass, memories flooded back of every shared laugh, every brush of their hands, each moment that felt like magic. They had built those moments amidst her dreams of a different life, one where he was a mere visitor rather than a cornerstone. A sudden howl of wind jolted him from his thoughts. The barn was shelter, but there was no comfort in hiding from the storm. Wasn't that the lesson he was fighting to grasp? Life was messy, it was unpredictable, and yet, there was beauty in that chaos. He thought of how Maria confronted that very truth every day. In the storm, we find ourselves, he murmured to no one as he lifted his face to the downpour. The rain turned his shirt dark against his skin, but he didn't mind. It felt liberating in a way, washing away the weight of fear. He conjured up the image of Maria smiling, her laughter like sunlight breaking through clouds. That was the joy he wanted to share, a life alive with dreams, not burdened by expectations. With renewed purpose, he looked towards the distant horizon where the storm clouds were beginning to part, revealing hints of blue sky. He couldn't drown in uncertainty or let fear dictate his path. In that moment, he chose to embrace the risk. It was time to confront their truth. Maria! He shouted against the howling winds, each call filled with hope. The sound echoed through the rain, but the only response was the resounding patter of falling droplets. He felt the emptiness of the space around him, the distance growing, and he was left breathless in its wake. Suddenly, as if the universe had heard his plea, a distant figure appeared through the haze, the silhouette unmistakable. It was Maria, drenched but determined. Their eyes locked, and for a second, the world around them blurred out. She was there, tangible, and full of unresolved yearning. But something in her expression told him that the battle wasn't over. The storm raged on inside her, just as it did outside. "Charlie!" she cried, her voice almost lost in the roaring elements. He rushed towards her, heart pounding, feeling every electrified moment creeping up to the tension between them. "Are you ready to talk?" he asked, hoping to bridge the distance that had grown. As she stepped closer, the wind shifted and a crack of thunder rolled, but it was the uncertainty in her gaze that gripped him. I'm not sure," she admitted, the hesitation hanging heavy. Their worlds collided again, and Charlie could see the battle within her, but he was ready to fight for what could be. Could she find strength in chaos? Would they weather the storm together? As lightning split the sky, illuminating Maria's resolute figure, Charlie felt the stirring of possibility, even as doubt clung to them both. What if embracing the storm led them to an unexpected tranquility? The roar of thunder faded slightly, replaced by the sound of rain drumming on their arms, a symphony of chaos surrounding them. Charlie's breath quickened as he searched Maria's eyes, hoping to find a flicker of clarity, some answer hidden beneath the waves of uncertainty. "Talk to me, Maria," he urged, his voice lower now, a plea wrapped in desperation. His heart beat like a drum, the cadence sinking with the storm. "I can't bear this distance between us. Not anymore." She shifted, lightning illuminating the softness of her features, the way her brow furrowed with contemplation. Charlie felt the rawness of her struggle, the weight of her thoughts pressing down on both of them. Amid the tempest, they stood poised on the edge of something extraordinary, yet so terrifying. "If I say the words," Maria finally started, her voice barely above a whisper, "if I admit what I truly feel, I risk everything, and I don't know if I'm strong enough to take that leap." Each word fell like a brick between them, heavy and unyielding. The questions hung in the air. What would admitting the truth mean for their lives? For her family? For the futures they had envisioned? Charlie felt every ounce of that fear. "I get that," he replied softly, stepping closer still, desperate to close the gap. "But we can't drown in what-ifs forever. I can't pretend any longer." "You mean everything to me." Maria's eyes softened, and for an electric moment, the chaos around them dimmed. Her shoulders relaxed just a fraction, as if she were shedding a weight she had carried too long. The rain was still pouring, but they stood shrouded in their shared truth, a fragile light flickering between them. "What about your dreams, Charlie?" she asked, her voice wavering. "What if mine lead me somewhere that puts us apart?" His mind raced through memories of their laughter, the late-night talks about the future, and all those times he wished he could live in that moment forever. If you get the chance to chase your dreams, I'd never want to stand in your way. But he hesitated, collecting his thoughts. What I want is to be by your side, no matter where that takes us. A murmur of thunder rolled in the distance, but Charlie was oblivious now, consumed only by the intensity in her eyes. The space between them crackled with possibility, their fears hanging like the heavy storm clouds above. I can't guarantee anything, Maria warned, breathless. It could be hard. And what if I fail? Charlie took her hands, their warmth steeling him against the raging storm. Then you'll never walk that path alone. I'll be there, whatever comes, weathering every storm with you. With that, he felt her fingers tighten around his, and something shifted. The howling wind seemed to soften for a heartbeat, and in that moment, it was just them, bound by hope. A spark ignited in her eyes. I want to believe that, she said hesitantly, the walls around her heart beginning to crack. A pause lingered, full of breath and possibilities. Charlie could sense the moment they had both been waiting for, the battle within them beginning to yield. The storm outside should have seemed daunting, yet together, they found the courage to face it. What if this is just the beginning? He said, savoring the sweetness of her presence, the magic crackling in the air. A smile began to tug at Maria's lips, a hint of the warmth that had always drawn him to her. The distance was shrinking, hope mingling with fear in a dance that felt precarious yet invigorating. As they stood together, the rain beginning to lighten, a fresh resolve washed over Charlie. Let us take the leap, he urged. Together. But as she opened her mouth to respond, a flash of lightning illuminated her face. The trepidation returned, darkening the spark. But what if it all unravels? She breathed, uncertainty creeping back into her gaze. Charlie's heart sank at her hesitation, but he tightened his grip, unwilling to let go. Then we'll weave a new path from the pieces, he replied, unwavering. Yet, a shiver ran through him as he realized the weight of her concerns. The storm hadn't just been external, it seeped into their cores. Could love really endure the chaos? What would it take to transform fear into faith? As Maria's expression wavered between hope and doubt, Charlie knew that the true test was only just beginning. The rain began to taper off, but the tension remained, electrifying the air between them. The world felt stripped down to just the two of them, caught in this fragile moment where everything hung in balance. Charlie could see Maria's conflicting emotions replaying like a film, her uncertainty battling against the flickered light of hope. Listen, he said softly, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. It's okay to feel scared. I'm scared too. But isn't it worth fighting for? She took a breath, deep and shuddering, as if gathering courage from somewhere deep within. The falling raindrops converted into a gentle patter that felt almost tender, as if encouraging them to continue. What if we leap and it doesn't result in magic? Her eyes glimmered with unshed tears, a storm of vulnerability. Charlie couldn't bear to see that glimmer of doubt in her eyes. What if it does? What if it brings us something incredible? He countered, his voice firm yet calming. I'd rather go through the unpredictable journey with you than live a lifetime wondering what could have been. A flicker of hope ignited, but just as quickly, doubt threatened to extinguish it. But, Charlie, I can't even see where my dreams are taking me. They feel so distant, so out of reach. Maybe they're closer than you think, he replied, sensing her growing unease. You just need to step forward. One foot in front of the other. I'll be right beside you. Time stretched as silence enveloped them, the din of the storm fading into the background. Charlie studied her face, every crease of worry and every flicker of determination etched in clarity. He longed to embrace her fears and show her the strength in vulnerability. Can you trust me? He asked suddenly, urgency in his voice. Can you trust us? Maria faltered for a moment, her heartbeat quickening. That question hung in the air, charged with promises and consequences. I want to, she admitted, a whisper of yearning spilling out. It's just, my reality has always been complicated. Life is messy, Charlie nodded, his heart racing with hope. But we don't have to make it harder. We can figure it out, together. The glimmer in her eyes shifted. It was as though he had offered her a lifeline, and she pulled it close, holding on for dear life. What if I fall? She asked, a quiver threading her voice. Then I'll catch you. His sincerity pierced through the remnants of doubt swirling within her. Maria seemed to soften, entranced by the sincerity of his words. Just then, the wind brushed against their skin, cool and invigorating, as if urging her to take that leap with him. Her breath hitched in her throat, the tension unraveling like old thread. Okay, she exhaled, her voice steadier now, I'll try. It felt monumental, a declaration potent enough to shift the world beneath their feet. Seeing her resolve ignite, Charlie smiled, a flood of warmth rushing through him. They stood in the storm that had once felt daunting, now transformed into the rhythm of their growing connection. For the first time, he really believed they could forge a future together. But as the clouds began to part overhead, revealing a fractured line of moonlight, Charlie felt a sudden chill. It carried an unsettling realness. What awaited them outside this moment, with all their dreams still to be realized, still felt nebulous and sharp. A loud crack of thunder boomed once more, echoing like a warning. What if we're not ready? He wondered aloud. Maria's gaze hardened, and in that flood of uncertainty, Charlie could see the distance stretching back to the fears they'd just tried to cross. Then we build a bridge, she said, a quivering courage in her eyes. Just as they began to retreat into the comforting embrace of possibility, a distant scream echoed in the fog, an alarm raising all the hairs on their arms. Both turned, startled, the initial worry flowing back like a wave. Did you hear that? Charlie asked, his heart racing once again. Together, they took a step back from their fragile moment. What had they just stepped into? The revelation hung in the air like a fresh storm, brewing, reminding them that the real test was just beginning. Charlie's heart thudded in his chest, the scream echoing in his mind as he tried to process what it meant. He searched Maria's face, looking for any hint of reassurance, anything to hold on to. But her eyes were wide, shock mingling with fear. They were still standing close, the world around them suddenly tinged with uncertainty. Let us go, Maria urged, her voice sharp but trembling. The calm they had shared moments before felt like a distant memory, as if the storm inside them had relocated to the depths of the night. Wait, Charlie said, grabbing her arm gently. He felt the warmth of her skin through the cold dampness, a grounding reminder of what they were building together. We can't just run off into the dark. We need to know what's happening. Maria glanced around as if the shadows might hold answers. But what if it's dangerous? Her eyes darted to the source of the noise. The air was charged, alive with the sense that something was lurking just beyond sight. Whatever it is, we face it together, he assured her, steeling himself for whatever lay ahead. He could feel the adrenaline coursing through him, pulling them both toward a choice they had to make, not just about facing the unknown but about how to redefine their scared yet hopeful paths. He took her hand, interlocking their fingers. They moved cautiously toward the sound, the trees shushing them with rustling leaves that whispered secrets. Each step felt monumental, the gravel crunching underfoot mingling with the distant thunder. They peered into the dark, hearts racing. A flash of movement caught his eye, and he froze. Adrenaline surged as he prepared for the unexpected, a defensive instinct kicking in. Maria squeezed his hand tighter, her breath hitching. Charlie? She whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Stay close, he murmured back, scanning the landscape, the contours of the land twisting like shadows in the moonlight. Suddenly, a figure broke through the haze, stumbling and falling to the ground, a young woman, pressing her hands to her face, muffled cries seeping through the night. Help, she cried out, desperation lacing her voice. Please. Someone help me. Maria gasped and rushed forward, the instinct to aid another overriding her fears. Charlie followed closely behind, his heart pounding as they closed the distance. "What happened?" he asked. The young woman looked jagged, her clothes torn, her hair wild, eyes glistening with fear and pain. "There's someone there after me." Charlie felt every muscle in his body tense. "We need to get you out of here," he said, his protective instincts heightened. But Maria had already knelt near the girl, her compassion shining brightly. "You're safe now. You're with us," she reassured her. "Just breathe." But as the girl caught her breath, Charlie could feel the tension in the air thickening again, like an invisible storm brewing. They were stepping into a clash between hope and danger, not just for the girl, but for their own fragile connection. What if we aren't prepared for whatever is coming? Charlie thought, slicing through his own resolve. The warmth of Maria's hand in his steadied him, yet the fear clawed at his insides. With a nod from Maria, they lifted the girl together, wariness guiding their every move. She leaned against them, visibly shaken yet drawing strength from their presence. They stepped carefully, their hearts drumming in sync, knowing that the journey had abruptly shifted course. As they began to navigate through the encroaching darkness together, Charlie realized their own hearts were still vulnerable, no matter how strong their collective courage appeared. And he understood that the world outside might be more than shadows and screams, it might also offer clarity. A piercing howl broke through the stillness, deep and haunting. It wrapped around them like a cold blanket and sent chills racing up Charlie's spine. What hidden truths awaited as they moved deeper into the night? With the promise of chaos just around the corner and their path uncertain, they were about to discover that the challenge they faced was only the beginning of a much larger story yet to unfold. They pressed onward, the weight of the night bearing down as they walked through the overgrown path. Shadows danced around them, stretching and twisting like memories coming to life. Charlie could feel Maria's warm breath against his arm, a soft, steady presence that fought against the chill wrapping around them. "Do you think she really is safe with us?" Maria asked softly, glancing back at the girl who was leaning heavily between them. Her voice was filled with worry, and Charlie could see the doubt flickering in her eyes. "We have to believe that we can protect her," he replied, trying to inject confidence into his words. But doubt gnawed at him too. What if they were headed straight into danger? What if the very act of helping someone else jeopardized them all? As they trod carefully, the girl who had introduced herself as Ivy stumbled slightly, and they instinctively steadied her. "I'm sorry," she gasped, her voice barely a whisper now. "I'm just so scared." Charlie felt a stab of empathy. He wanted to shield them all from whatever was lurking in the dark, but he was terrified of what might come next. "It's all right," he said gently. "You're not alone. We'll get through this." With every step, the howl echoed again, more pronounced this time. The hairs on the back of Charlie's neck stood up. It sounded closer, more urgent. He shared a quick glance with Maria, their fear pulsing silently between them, a shared understanding that this was no ordinary night. "Keep moving. We need to find somewhere safe," Maria urged, her voice breaking through Charlie's thoughts. She nudged Ivy gently in the direction they were headed, guiding them up a slight incline that led to a clearing covered in soft grass. They emerged under a canopy of stars, a small slice of silver light illuminating the ground ahead. For a moment, the sheer beauty of the night took Charlie's breath away, but it didn't erase the urgency of their situation. "Why are they after you?" Maria asked Ivy, her voice calm yet probing, like a lifeline extending into the darkness. Ivy hesitated, her eyes darting nervously towards the trees as if they might betray her. I can't explain right now. Just trust me, please. They're dangerous." The tension was thick, and Charlie exchanged another look with Maria. They had their own fears, but here was someone who needed them to keep the hope alive. "We'll figure it out together," he promised Ivy, even though he felt uncertainty weighing down on his heart like an anchor. Just as Ivy nodded in gratitude, a sudden rustle in the woods snapped Charlie's attention back to reality. His pulse quickened. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Maria's face paled. "What was that?" "Don't panic," he said, gripping Maria's hand tightly as he scanned the treeline. Suddenly, a figure burst into the clearing, stumbling as it emerged from the shadowed forest. "Charlie." "Maria." It was Jake, Charlie's old friend, panting and wide-eyed, fear written across his face. "You need to get out of here. Now." "What do you mean?" Charlie asked, his heart racing even faster. It never occurred to him that their night could become this chaotic. "What is going on? This isn't safe." "They're coming." Jake's voice was urgent, and the gravity of his words sent a new wave of panic coursing through Charlie. The night had turned darker, more threatening, and Charlie could feel every instinct scream at him to protect those he held dear. Would he be able to forge through this treachery, or would they succumb to the darkness of the chase? "Who's coming?" he shouted, desperation tinging his tone. A piercing growl echoed back from the depths of the forest, reverberating through the clearing like an ominous warning. Charlie's heart raced as hope slipped through his fingers. What were they really facing, and would they emerge together, or would it tear them apart? The truth was about to unfurl, but would they be ready for it? The ground beneath Charlie's feet felt alive with tension, every thud of his heart echoing the urgency in the air. "Let us go," he commanded, a mix of fear and determination coursing through him. He turned, ready to lead them deeper into the woods, but something held him back. The growl, low and rumbling, reverberated within him, vibrating against his chest. Jake stepped closer, eyes wide, as he grasped Charlie's shoulder. "We can't go that way. We have to find a different route." His voice trembled, but there was a fire behind it that urged Charlie to listen. "Then where?" Maria's voice cut through the fog of panic, her grip on Ivy tightening. The girl's face was pale, eyes wide with dread. "That way," Jake said, pointing toward a narrow path that snaked out of sight between two towering trees. "It leads away from the sound." The noise came again, closer this time, a growl that made Charlie's blood run cold. "Let us move." He didn't wait for a response, taking off down the path Jake had pointed out, the girls right behind him, Jake bringing up the rear. The darkness closed in around them, tightened like a fist. Branches scratched at their arms and faces as they sprinted, forcing focus away from the noise, away from whatever hunted them. Charlie felt Maria's breath quicken next to him. He wanted to say something comforting, but the words caught in his throat. They stumbled onto another clearing, this one edged by thick brush. Charlie slowed, sensing the need to catch a breath and assess their situation. "What now?" he gasped, panting. "We can hide here," Jake suggested, scanning the surrounding area. They ducked behind a cluster of bushes, hearts pounding like drums in the stillness that followed. "What about Ivy?" Maria whispered, glancing over at the trembling girl. "She can't keep running like this." "I'll be okay," Ivy said, though her voice quivered. "If you're with me, I feel stronger." Charlie admired her courage even as his heart sank. They were all scared, but somehow, her small words breathed a little hope into the void. "You're right," he whispered back, realizing that strength often came from trusting one another. Moments stretched in silence, the only sound their shallow breathing and the rustle of leaves. Then, the growl returned, sharper, closer. They could hear it prowling, like a predator stalking its prey. "What do we do if it finds us?" Maria's voice was small, and Charlie felt the weight of her fear. "We stick together," Jake said, voice low and steady. "We won't let it take any of us." But even as he said the words, the growl shifted into something else, an unsettling cacophony of sounds, like a pack moving through the underbrush. Charlie's heart thudded painfully against his ribs. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught his eye, a shadow darting just beyond the treeline. Did you see that? He whispered, a strange mix of dread and curiosity swirling inside him. What is that? Before anyone could answer, a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall and lean, with eyes glinting in the moonlight. Get back! The figure shouted, voice booming against the quiet. Jake stepped forward, instinctively defensive. Who are you? Friends, the stranger replied, one hand raised in a gesture of peace. But you have to move fast. They're coming for you. Before Charlie could process what was happening, two more figures materialized, urgency etched on their faces. Their arrival shifted the atmosphere, hope mingling with fear and an overwhelming sense of uncertainty. Follow us. We know the way, the stranger urged, glancing back where the howls grew nearer. Charlie exchanged a desperate look with Maria and Ivy. Was this a chance or another trap? In his core, he felt the pull of instinct trust. They had to go, they had to move. Let us go. Charlie shouted, taking a step towards the figures. As they slipped away from the clearing, he could only wonder, was this a new beginning or a descent into deeper peril? Would this night end with salvation or with the shadows closing in forever? Charlie sprinted toward the figures, adrenaline flooding his veins. Maria and Ivy followed closely, the shadows of the woods closing in behind them. The ground crunched underfoot, the night air thick with the scent of pine and earth. Wait! Jake called, hesitating at the edge of the clearing. What if this is a mistake? I don't think we have time for mistakes. Charlie shouted back, his voice sharp with urgency. The stranger nodded, urgency flashing in their eyes. We have to move, now. They darted behind the newcomers, the whispers of apprehension still clinging to the air. The group plunged deeper into the trees, weaving through the undergrowth. The growls from behind echoed, now unmistakably a chorus, the sound of something hunting not just prey, but them. Who are you? Charlie gasped as they hurried. What's out there? Not now. The taller figure said, glancing over their shoulder. Just trust us. A sudden flicker of branches sent a jolt of fear through Charlie's spine. There was no question anymore, whatever hunted them was close, too close. The shadows writhed, slipping between trees like a living thing, as if the forest itself conspired against them. They plunged down another narrow path, the ground sloping steeply. Ivy stumbled, falling to her knees. Panic surged in Charlie. Ivy. I'm okay, she said, though her voice shaky. Just give me a second. While Ivy caught her breath, the urgency roared in Charlie's ears. He grabbed Maria's hand, squeezing it to keep her grounded. Stay close. The stranger turned, eyes fierce. Keep moving. In that moment, the darkness felt alive, breathing heavily around them. Each growl erupted closer, sending tremors of fear racing through Charlie's body. They had pushed too far, stretched too thin. Something monstrous lurked just out of sight, relentless and waiting. Finally, Ivy managed to stand, and Charlie pulled her forward again. They ventured further into the forest, the path winding beneath their feet. Over there. One of the newcomers shouted, pointing toward a shallow cavern concealed by thick brushes. In there. They dove into the opening, wriggling inside. The cold earth felt grounding, security in a world spinning from fear. Shadows seeped in, but the frantic growling faded slightly. Tension hung heavily above them. They glanced around, catching their breath, hearts thumping like drums. The quiet seemed unnatural, a pause before the storm. What now? Maria whispered, her face pale under the faint light filtering in. Now we wait, the stranger replied, their voice low. And we stay quiet. Minutes dragged on. The growls faded into a haunting silence, interrupted only by the rhythm of their breathing. Charlie leaned back against the rocky wall, the cold biting into him. Tell us what's going on, Charlie insisted, his voice fierce yet shaking with uncertainty. Who are you really? The strangers exchanged wary glances. We're survivors, one finally said. This forest is dangerous, and we've faced a pack before. They are hunting for something. For us? Ivy dared to ask, her voice fragile. Not just you, the stranger replied, eyes narrowing. They're hunting for anyone who enters their territory. We've seen it happen. But if we stick together, we might just outsmart them. What do you know about this place? Jake interjected, desperate for clarity. Before they could respond, a rustle echoed outside the cave. Fear gripped them all. Charlie's heartbeat surged, drowning out every thought. Keep still, the stranger hissed. The growl returned closer and more menacing. Fear seeped through the group, threading their hearts together in a shared dread. Suddenly, the shadows writhed once more as something slinked past the entrance of their hiding spot. Charlie held his breath, urgency marking every heartbeat. Will we survive? He thought, as anxiety clawed at his insides. And then, without warning, a chilling cry pierced the air, cutting through the silence like a knife. Every heart froze. What awaited beyond their fragile sanctuary? Would they face the oncoming storm, or would they fall prey to the darkness that hunted them? The sound seemed to consume everything, crashing over them like the storm that had raged through Charlie's heart for most of his life. But now, trapped in the dark embrace of the cave, he felt something different, a flicker of defiance. Stay together, he whispered, a mantra mixing courage with hope. His instincts surged. They wouldn't go down without a fight. The growling intensified outside, swirling around them like a predatory tide. Charlie could feel the panic settling deep in his bones, threatening to crush him. But there was no time to waste. The group huddled close, faces illuminated by the faint light that trickled in. I won't let anything happen to us, Charlie vowed softly, locking eyes with Maria. In that shared gaze, unsaid promises floated like embers. The connection they had wrestled with felt stronger now, forged in uncertain moments of fear and necessity. The girl, Ivy, quivered beside him. Charlie placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You're safe with us, he said, and a new determination sparked within him. What if we need to escape? Maria whispered urgently. What if they find us? She looked between Charlie and Ivy, the weight of their fears palpable in the air. They will, Jake interjected, voice quaking. But if they do, we fight. His raw conviction rang out, a beacon that rekindled the energy within their group. A movement snapped Charlie's attention back to the entrance. The dark shadows thickened, leaving them gripped in uncertainty. He could hear a low, ragged breath and then the monstrous snarl that sent chills down his spine. In a flash, the creature stood at the mouth of the cave, a hulking silhouette, blending into the night. Everyone, hold still. The stranger urged, fierceness eclipsing fear. Charlie felt the muscles in his legs tense, ready to react at a moment's notice. His pulse hammered in his ears as the figure inched forward, something wild and primal lurking just beneath its fur. But as the beast stepped closer, something remarkable happened. Just as they braced for confrontation, it caught sight of Ivy, its growling subsiding, as if recognizing something within her. Wait, Ivy? Charlie said, disbelief washing over him. The girl's fright morphed into something ethereal, and an unspoken recognition flickered across her delicate features. I can control it, I think, Ivy murmured, her voice steadying. She took a deep breath and stepped instinctively into the light of the cave, her luminous aura gently forcing the shadows back. I know you're scared, she said softly, staring fearlessly into the creature's eyes. But you don't need to hunt anymore. Please come with me. The group held its breath, tension thick as fog. The creature hesitated, sniffing the air, caught between its instinct and the unreachable pull of Ivy's essence. The quiet was electrifying, the sort of silence that held the weight of 1,000 hidden fears and dreams. Ivy stepped closer, her heart radiating warmth. "You can choose to be free," she insisted. "You don't have to be alone anymore." Suddenly, attention snapped as the creature shifted, taken aback by Ivy's gentle presence. It lowered its head, the growl fading into something softer, an echo of sorrow. In that moment, the pack echoed through the night, their snarls fainter now, sensing the connection between Ivy and the creature. "It's okay," Charlie murmured, backing Ivy up. "We're all in this together." Her bravery bridged the gap, and one by one, the growls faded into the distance. The creature, once fierce and haunting, dissolved before them, a guardian rather than a hunter. With newfound understanding, Ivy reached for it, fingers outstretched. As the creature took a step forward, its massive form began to shift, retreating into the shadows, its snarl morphing back into a whisper. And just like that, they witnessed the impossible, a bond forged from respect and connection, a wild creature tamed through love and resilience. A wave of relief washed over them, tightening around the group like a safe cocoon. They stood together, breathless and triumphant, hearts pounding against uncertainty and fear. "I did it," Ivy breathed in disbelief, her voice quivering with wonder. "We did it." Charlie's heart swelled with pride, filled with gratitude for the brave girl beside him. Maria squeezed his arm, her eyes shining. "You have incredible power," she told Ivy, the warmth of their connection illuminating the darkness. And there, in the aftermath of chaos united by shadows, Charlie recognized the beauty of that fragile moment. They were connected in their vulnerability, bound in newfound hope. As they emerged from the cave into the velvet blanket of the night, the stars twinkled above them, a vast canvas of possibilities. The rawness and unpredictability of life held infinite potential. "Together, we can face anything," Charlie said firmly, looking at Ivy, Maria, and Jake. "This is just the beginning." And in the light of the stars, the group stepped boldly into the future, hearts full of dreams, embracing the chaos, ready to carve their own destinies, side by side, the storm within them quelled by the strength of unity. This is the moment to make a difference. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support is crucial. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this shocking transformation. Share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this miraculous journey. You need to subscribe now and show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of backing the channel through these actions.